All right. In Skype with us tonight is Jimmy Allen, and we're going to talk about his latest release, Setting the Head on Fire. Hi, Jimmy. I'd like to welcome you to the Thorne Experience.
Hey, man. What's up, Thorne? How you doing?
Man, I am doing great. I told you earlier I've been running late all day, so I apologize. We got you a little later than I wanted to, but let's get into it, dude. I want to thank you first for helping me launch my move over to the Thursday nights.
Killer. Thank you.
I know Tuesdays were boring. I think Thursdays are the pre-weekend, so I'm pretty pumped. I'm gonna get some pre-weekend time and maybe rock some people ready for the weekend. I'm sure every one of the rockers in the audience tonight is familiar with some of the great music you've made. Songs like Blurry and Drift and Die, and then later Drug I Need and my personal favorite, Swept Away, which we did just a few minutes ago. Tonight I want to focus on you, actually, and your Project Cooker and this kick-ass album you just dropped, Setting the Head on Fire. I want to start out by asking a little about Jimmy Allen, the person, if that's okay. Can we get into that just a little bit?
Fire away.
Can you tell us about yourself? Where are you from? Are you married? You have kids? What's going on with you?
From Chinook, Kansas. It's a southeast Kansas town. It's a couple hours from Kansas City, so Kansas City was always the big city or whatever. A small town where, it's a good working class little town, in southeast Kansas. It was a good time growing up, a small town, being around a lot of, people that were kind of had similar interests in you. It's small town values, I guess.
The heartland, as it's referred to many times. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I was in Kansas one time. I flew in and flew out, so I don't really have an opinion about Kansas, but it looked okay from the air.
It's flat. Yeah, it's very flat.
Yeah, it is. I saw in your feed that you're passionate about animals and rescue charities. Can you talk about what you're into there?
Yeah, I know. The whole animal thing, I've always loved animals. I love, all kinds of animals. I swam with sharks. I've, hung out with bears and, and dogs and cats. Yeah, hung out with bears. I hung out with bears, I think they were being
You guys in Kansas. Right? Yeah, you guys in Kansas got some wild hobbies.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's cool nowadays with the animal thing is that we can kind of get the voice of the voiceless out there. A lot of stuff, mistreatment of animals is kind of the stepping stone for serial killers. If you're doing that to an animal, then it ain't too long before you're going to be doing something bad to a person. Since animals don't have voices, I think it gives us a little bit more power to be a voice for the voiceless.
Guys, one of the first things I saw in your feed when I started following you was you posted you were happy, I guess, that the law has recently been changed to make it a felony to hurt an animal. Is that right? Yeah.
That's one of the things that I think Trump really, he ushered that in, love him or hate him, whatever. But I think that's
right.
In this world, there's a lot of good people. And I think, 90% of it is good people, but the 10% are really bad. And it's just one of those things where it's like, the 10% that's really bad, or if they're doing that to animals, then they're going to be doing whatever they can to people. So
I don't even like to think about that. Hey, I got another personal question for you. Tell us which band or who you're listening to right now at home or in your car.
I still listen to CDs. I still go through the whole record. Nothing More's new album, the band Nothing More, I really like.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Like what they're doing. The new Tool record's really cool. I like a lot of the Five Finger Death Punch stuff. I like a little bit of everything. If I'm going to go really soft and stuff, I'll go back to, some of the unplugged stuff like Nirvana and Alice in Chains when they did those unplugged stuff. I really think that's genius, I really like to focus more on my own music. It's really when I'm only in the car do I turn the stuff on stun and really just blast the music that, a CD that I love.
You have a bitchin' car, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. I saw in an interview where you referred to your songs as children. That's one of my favorite way that artists refer to songs. Can you tell the fans which of your children you enjoy playing the most?
Oh, God. I love them all. Yeah, I love playing them all. But I would say the one that means the most to me is Drift and Die from Puddle because it was like really one of the first songs I ever wrote when I was 19 or 20. She Hates Me was like the second song. I mean, there's a lot of those songs mean a lot to me because it's kind of the nostalgia of my babies that I, brought up,
Very cool. All right. When I was looking at your career for this interview, at least the pieces that I could find on the internet, I saw a couple of big gaps. First, there was a break after you left Puddle and formed Against All Will. and now about a 6-year gap since Against All Will released your last single, 2013's Another Nail in the Coffin. What's been keeping you busy these last 6 years? What have you been up to?
Putting my studio together and really just working on songs. Within a 2-year period, I lost my parent. I kind of focused on just kind of spending time with them, and kind of burn out on the whole thing. I mean, the business is tough, and I was really just trying to stay focused and try to do my thing, and I just got burnt out. Really, the breaks actually made my music a little bit better, I think. That's just my personal opinion.
Well, I like what you're doing now, so something's working.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, no problem. I want to talk a little bit about social media because that's something that all the artists are doing now. You left Puddle of Mud around 97, and Facebook really didn't come out to around 2004. So you didn't start your career in the age of social media. I mean, guys our age never do. My question is, as a musician, what are you doing now to interact with the fans on social media? And how has that changed since you started Against All Will?
It's kind of nice to be able to talk to people, and you can kind of weed out the crazies, I guess. It's one of those things where you kind of actually feel like you're in touch with people a little bit more, and I think that's a good thing. The social media thing is so, I don't know how to put it, but I think it's just kind of one of those things where people everything's kind of forgettable within a week. And it's kind of like we're really like, some sort of amnesia is going on where, like, when I grew up, you really idolized those records from those bands, be it 10 years old, 15 years old, or brand new. You were into the records, you were into the band. And now everything's kind of like, it seems like it's discarded pretty quick.
Well, yeah, the world's moving at such a fast pace. I guess music's gonna be a victim to that to a certain extent. Let's do a few questions from the chat room. Magdalena Fries asks, do you realize what a huge impact your songs still have on people nowadays, over 25 years after you wrote them? And do you realize that your music has saved a lot of people's lives? I can't wait to hear this answer.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Hi, Mags. How are you doing? I have a lot of people that come up to me and say some of the coolest things, and I get messages from some of the coolest people. That's how I was saying earlier, how with social media, you can kind of weed out the crazies a little bit. And it's nice to be able to have people say that your songs have saved their lives or been there when their family passed, or it really makes me smile to think that, something that I've done, artistically can do that. It's a blessing from God to be able to do that. It's one of those things where you wish you had more time for people some of the time, just to sit there and, talk to them a little bit more about it. But, we live in a weird world.
Yeah, nice. What a touching thought.
It's great. She
also asks, what's the difference between living in L.A. and living in Kansas City, and which city's lifestyle do you prefer?
Oh, God. Living in L.A. Okay, so it's a drag. It's expensive, and it's like people are so phony. And, I live in Kansas City, and people are really, really, really nice. People, you do things in Kansas City that people would never even probably think about doing in L.A. Not saying that my friends in L.A. are bad. Most of the people just seem like they're really just out for themselves and just trying to, cut throat in this business.
How long did you live out on the coast?
I was about there 10 years, but I've been out there for 15. But 10 years I lived there, and it's really one of those places where the air's bad, the people aren't great, and it's expensive.
I tell you, brother, I grew up out here, and the air is not nearly as bad as it used to be. But, hey, that's neither here nor there. Hey, at one time you were floating demos under the name Cutout. Both projects were with Troy McCoy. Is Cooker a name change or something new?
No, it's kind of the same thing. The whole thing was when we were shopping out in L.A. when we were trying to do these showcases at the Whiskey and the Roxy and stuff.
Yeah.
I think there was another band called Cooker out there. I can't remember.
Oh.
And we were just trying to do something. This was in the time when labels were still kind of paying attention to live bands, rock bands, basically, that were, just coming out. And then it kind of soon changed from that, though. And that's where it was like the name changes. And one time I think we were calling ourselves 5.1. We were just trying to, get some attention, like, from labels. And so we were coming up with dumb names all the time.
During my research, I ran across a Discogs reference crediting drummer Steve Nichols on the album. I'm pretty sure it was Insanity, but Vaughn had mentioned to me that you guys used a drum machine, so I'd like to clear that up. Who or what drummed on the album?
Oh no, it was definitely, I think, Nichols. I think it was, there's drum machines. It was all written on drum machines, but we went to tape with a lot of that. It was analog taped on the thing. So we don't know if Steve's dead or alive because we haven't heard from him, because you know how drummers are.
Yeah.
So, Spinal Tap.
No, I don't want to talk shit. I might, want to have a drummer on the show. I had Johnson on the show with me a while back, so I want to, be kind to drummers. And
Yeah,
Sloan Lynn,
great.
my media girl, she's a huge fan of the guys that pound the skin. So I'm going to pass on that question, I think. I love this album, and as I wrote my review on Backstage 360 magazine, I get a definite grunge feel on some of the tracks. Tell us what you were going for when you made Setting the Head on Fire.
Kind of that throwback sound, going to analog tape instead of any computers being involved. That 90s sound, I still kind of go back to that more than I go back to anything when I listen to stuff and kind of my vibe and feel. I think I really gravitate towards that kind of grungy stuff, I mean, if that's the word you want to call it. But I think I just gravitate towards trying to make something kind of cool, and so it's like, I think we grew up in a great time in the 90s with the music scene, awesome bands. There's a lot more female artists back then too that were really good,
Do you consider that something new for you? Because I guess I haven't scientifically listened to all your music. I don't remember so much of a grunge vibe. I mean, it was, a little different than that for me. So is this something you're kind of rolling back on and in re-embracing?
Yeah.
Or okay, cool.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the way to go now. So
right.
it comes across more vibey, I guess. I don't know,
Tell us about your plans around the Cooker project. Will you and Troy put a band together and go out in support of the new album?
Yeah, I really have no desire really to go out and play live right now. I'm working with a lot of different writing projects, and I've been 2 years sober, so I've been basically, I think playing shows kind of was maybe one of my nervous twitches that led to my addiction, basically. Okay, right now, I'm not real excited about it, Thorne, but yeah, I'll play some shows, but it's going to be something different and unique. It's basically, it might be a sum of all the parts. Who knows?
Okay, cool. Jimmy, I just want to tell you, this album is really something I can't say enough. Can you please tell the rockers listening where they can buy this album right now, and if collectors can grab a copy on vinyl?
No vinyl yet, but that's a great idea, Thorne. No, it's at Amazon, it's on iTunes, it's on Spotify, it's on Pandora, it's on all the streaming things for sure. But I have seen discs that are signed by Troy McCoy and I on eBay going for like $30 and $40. But I was like,
wow,
what's going on here? Yeah, cool, right?
Well, who would do that? Who would get your signature and then turn around and sell it? I mean, that's just kind of weak.
Probably my bass player.
Oh,
I'm kidding. That's totally a joke.
Well, man, I want to tell you, I am so pumped to have you on the show tonight. I really want to thank you a lot. Please come back sometime and let us know how things are going for you and Troy.
Okay, cool. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for all the fans supporting.
Very good. Okay, on Skype tonight, that was award-winning songwriter and Uber guitarist Jimmy Allen from somewhere in Kansas.